friends, it's time for another quarantine food storage challenge update. I'm Stephanie from sixfiguresunder.com. For those who are new here, we're doing a food storage challenge during this time of sheltering in place. We're challenging ourselves to not go to the grocery store until the pandemic passes, whatever that means, or as long as we possibly can. Not only will this help keep us and others safe, but it'll give us the chance to try out our long-term food storage, to see how it goes and to learn what things we need to add to our food storage inventory. Last week I shared lots of the meals we've been eating so far, as well as some of the struggles we've had and how we're facing them. If you missed that update, I'll link to it up here. Today I'll talk about how we're planning our meals, what we're having for snacks, and a few things we're doing to ensure that we'll be able to stretch our food storage challenge even longer. Last week I made a menu with theme days to help prevent me from having a mental block when it was dinner time. They weren't necessarily the same sort of categories I would have picked before the pandemic, but they focus on main categories of meals that we can make from our food storage. I brainstormed 4 to 5 meals in each category to make sure it was a viable category, and I came up with rice, leftovers, soup, potato, pasta, breakfast for dinner, and beans or Mexican. I always assign a day for leftovers because we always have lots. One of the things I love about leftovers is that everyone can choose what they want instead of complain about what I made. Does that happen at your house too? I also love that I don't have to cook every day, and it's great that eating leftovers a lot means we don't waste any food. After my last video update, I wrote out a little whiteboard menu of what we would be eating. As you can see, plans have changed. It turns out we had some form of leftovers 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. But the food was so good the first time, so eating it a second time wasn't hard. The meals that weren't leftovers were pork loin with mashed potatoes and peas and homemade bread on the side. Okay, today we are having brown rice with naan and curry. This curry has potatoes and sweet potatoes and garbanzo beans. And creamy taco casserole, which I didn't get a picture of. It's a family favorite, totally comfort food. I can leave a link to the blog post where I talk about it. To keep the leftovers exciting, on the first leftover night at the beginning of the week, right here, I got out some tortillas to go with all the different kinds of beans that we had last week. We had leftovers from the meals that we ate this week, these new meals, a couple of times. And then another night, on the last night, I made some homemade whole wheat French bread that was really good, and we ate that. I made some tuna to go with it, and we had curry on it, and some of the kids put beans on there. So adding a couple of new things, some small new side things to go with the leftovers we already had, just stretches them that much more. Okay, now for some snacks that we made. We made cake mix waffles. If you haven't done this before, I definitely recommend you try it. It's such a fun way to use a cake mix, and it tastes like cupcakes, only it's less crumbly, so it's even better for little people. My 8-year-old was the one in charge of this project, and he chose a red velvet cake mix, so they are quite colorful. Homemade cookies. We froze some of those orange cookies that we made last week so they wouldn't immediately disappear. Basically, that means hiding them from myself. It worked, so we had cookies this week too. Dry cereal. We have some of this sugar cereal that I got at Grocery Outlet for 50 cents a box, pre-pandemic. For a snack, the kids just pour some of it in a bowl without milk, just for a sweet, crunchy snack. Graham crackers and frosting. My mom always made the best homemade frosting for graham crackers. Whenever I make frosting for any occasion, I always try to make enough so there's extra for graham crackers. Popcorn. We don't normally eat much popcorn, so it's a special treat when we get it out. It's also great because it's super cheap for a treat. We have 2 of these number 10 cans of popcorn that were from my grandma's food storage. It's from when I was 8. But it still pops, so we eat it. Oranges. We still are eating the oranges that we got a few weeks ago from our friend's tree. Chocolate no-bake cookies. Around here, we all love chocolate no-bake cookies. A lot. I haven't made them in a while, so everyone was excited. I know there are a couple different recipes out there. I'll link up here to our favorite. Okay, let me give you an update on the baking supplies. Last week I told you how I ordered some yeast, baking soda, baking powder, and cocoa from a bulk food store online. Since I had never ordered from them before and everywhere is out of things like yeast, I didn't want to get my hopes up until the order was actually in my hands. Well, I'm happy to report that bulkfoods.com didn't disappoint. Their prices were reasonable and they had free shipping for orders of $75 or more, which is partly why I got 2 5-pound bags of cocoa. You can't go wrong with having extra chocolate when you're in quarantine. So if you remember my pantry tour right at the beginning of all this, I had 3 gallons of canola oil, 5 pounds of butter, and just a little bit of coconut oil. Oh, and enough shortening to grease some bread pans. Well, I wanted to increase my oil supply because you need oil to make bread. I ordered some vegetable oil from Amazon. 2 gallons of vegetable oil from Amazon. I definitely wanted to have that. And I got some shortening from Walmart. I got 4 of these from Walmart. Now, we don't usually use shortening. There are 2 recipes I use shortening for. That's homemade pie crust and molasses sugar cookies. But in a pinch, when we run out of butter, we will have to use shortening. We'll make exceptions when we're in quarantine. Now, I realize that this is spending money on food, but it didn't require us to go to the grocery store, so I'm deeming it okay for my challenge. Everyone gets to make their own rules for their own challenges, right? Plus, these purchases weren't just random cravings or wants. These are staples that will allow us to use our other long-term food storage that we have, like tons of wheat. If you've watched our pantry and food storage tour, you know that we have hundreds of pounds of wheat. Our storage was lacking fat and leavening to go along with all that wheat. So adding oil, yeast, baking powder, baking soda will make that wheat go a long way. Okay, so we weren't planning on planting a full garden this year, just a few tomato plants and 1 raised bed that we put together last year. The majority of our property is really steep, so we need to do some terracing, build raised beds, and haul in real dirt. Ours is mostly rock. That wasn't in the plan for this year, and it still isn't, but realizing that this coronavirus craziness and all of the hardship that comes in its wake will be lasting into the summer, we thought it prudent to plant as much as we can. We started some seeds inside and some out on the back patio. We had a pretty good collection of seeds from years past, but I also ordered some more varieties on eBay. Here's what we're planting. Lettuce and spinach for tacos, for salads, for smoothies. Tomatoes for eating fresh and for canning. Carrots for eating fresh and adding to soups. Zucchini and yellow squash for eating plain or baking with. Watermelon. What's summer without watermelon? Pumpkin, butternut squash, banana squash, winter squash are great for baking. The kids wanted to plant some sugar snap peas for munching. And berries. We planted blackberries and raspberries last year and earlier this year. We shared most of last year's harvest with the birds and deer, so we'll see what we can do about that this year. Hopefully having dogs now will at least help with the deer. Nothing's going to be really picture perfect this year. It'll be all a little bit thrown together, but with the real understanding that what we grow will be a more serious contribution to our eating than it has been in the past. Now, I want to hear about you. Are you planting a garden during quarantine? What are you going to grow? What are your favorite make-at-home quarantine snacks? Do you have menu theme days? Let me know down in the comments. Okay, stay safe out there, guys. I'll be back next week with another quarantine food storage challenge update. See ya.